and welcome to Community InRoads, spotlighting the many treasures found in Greater Lawrence. Community InRoads is an organization that helps Lawrence and Haverhill nonprofits make inroads towards social justice and economic equality. Our ultimate goal is to provide the necessary resources for the men, women, and youth living in the area to reach their fullest potential by fostering a strong network of local nonprofits. Our professional volunteers are local citizens, like many of you in the audience, who are skilled in such areas as marketing, strategic planning, finance, IT, web design, human resources, and other much-needed business skills that our nonprofits need but often are unable to afford. My name is Joan Kulash, and I'll be your host today. With me today is our special guest, Latriah Masters, founder of the nonprofit Merrimack Valley Music and Arts, located in Haverhill. Latriah.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Listen, I don't know if you remember this. I think it's been about 3 years since our very first meeting.
Doesn't seem that long at all.
It seems like a long time to me because I met you in Panera. I don't know if you remember this, and I was blown away by your sophistication, your determination, because you started talking to me about a dream, and the dream was the organization that you were just getting started.
Absolutely.
Remember that? And you were talking to me about a building that you were wanting to get a hold of, and all the challenges that you had to go through in order to get it. And I'm thinking, if it were me, I'd say, forget it. But I knew you were going to do it. And then radio silence. I didn't hear from you. I'd email you every once in a while, didn't hear. And then finally, you reemerged in my life at our event, Lawrence Got Talent. And that's when you and I started working together.
Relationship.
It was a beautiful, and it still is, and it's growing, and it's getting better and better. Yes. And we started doing a little bit of work with you, Community InRoads. I'm wondering if you could just share just a couple of projects that we did with you.
Absolutely. Thanks to Community InRoads, I have actually been able to grow exponentially in the last, I would say, 7 or 8 months. Our first interaction, or our first project, was about how do I get connected with people who can help build and stabilize my nonprofit. I had been operating mainly solo for a while. I had a couple other team members on board as my secretary and treasurer, but we had such a busy life. It was really difficult to function as we should have been functioning. And my goal, I felt, was to completely replace my board and actually extend it to 5 members by the end of this year, 2017. And so I've been talking to Joan and some other of her team members with Community InRoads, and I said, how do I approach people and ask them and invite them into this vision and say, would you be a part of this? Would you invest your time, your talents in order to help me build a board that can really get this off the ground? I knew that what I had already done practically by myself was good, but it wasn't enough in order to achieve the greater vision. So I really wasn't familiar with the proper etiquette and how to draft letters to funders versus board members versus volunteer help. And so that's where Joan and her team came in and said, listen, let's fine tune this vision down to a nugget. I'm the type of person that I'm a writer, so I had a whole book worth of information for people. And you just can't put all that onto paper. You had to really narrow it down and say, this is who I am. Would you like to be a part? So formulating some marketing materials, some initial invite letters to get people's attention and say, hey, would you meet with me for 20 minutes in order to share the greater vision and see if you would like to be a part of this, is what they helped me do. And so over probably about a month and a half, I worked with one of their professionals. I don't know if they wish to remain anonymous, but they were...
No, they're not allowed to remain anonymous.
Yes. Leanne was my first professional that helped me draft an invite letter. And I sent those letters out after she critiqued, and I would say, well, I kind of feel this way, but she ultimately knew the better, and I was smart to follow her suggestions to the T and sent out those invite letters. And within a week, I had, I believe, 99% of everybody I invited to be on the board said yes.
Wow.
They responded with excitement, and it was very encouraging to see such a response. And I know that I would not have been able to do that without the help of Community InRoads and Leanne and her professional advice. And so after that ball got rolling, I was able to meet with each individual, talk more personally, and then get my first real active nonprofit board off the ground.
Beautiful. And I know now you're working with an accountant to help you with your 990 form, all those financials. That's really exciting, I know, but
yes.
we need professionals to help us with that. That's not my bailiwick either.
I'm an A student, but when it comes to accounting, it's not my forte. I would rather be playing my instruments or singing and being out in the public with the community and doing all the artsy stuff, but the behind the scenes paperwork absolutely drives me crazy. So another project that we launched with Community InRoads was helping to make sure I was complying with all of the IRS requirements, which is a really big deal as a nonprofit. There's some things that you really have to have in place to make sure you stay legal and transparent with what you're doing with the money that comes in or whatever the case may be. So I got another professional to help with my 990. It was my first experience with that, and it ended up being extremely way more simplified and basic than I thought it would be, and it was very encouraging once again to show that even I could handle doing that, even though I don't wish to be the treasurer ever again. But it was definitely an eye-opening experience that having a little bit of mentorship, which is a great way. I often refer to Community InRoads as my guardian angels, because they come along and they unfurl all this knowledge and help, and all of a sudden it feels like we're flying and we're moving along smoothly. And those things that happen in life that kind of shake you up when you don't really know how to do the right thing at the right time or with the right people, they really just make it all smooth sailing. So.
And we are a community. Mm-hmm. We're all a community coming together to make inroads towards social justice and economic equality. So with that, let's talk about something really exciting,
sure.
and that is your organization. And I was on your website, and I picked up a quote from a friend of mine, Miss Latriah Masters. And the quote is, I think, a beautiful one, and I'd like you to just expand on it a little bit. It's, a society without music and the arts is a body without a beating heart.
Absolutely. When I first started birthing this nonprofit, it just really seemed to me that there was a lack of the mindset that the arts are truly an important aspect of growing a community. I feel like I have 5 children, and they're all amazing, and they go to school, and every single year I've noticed there's a little bit of the arts that is taken out, and it's almost made to seem like it's just a little bit of addition on the side and not something that's part of the actual structure. So I feel like education and mathematics and reading and all those things that are important, and they're the bones. They're the bones, you know, like the skeletal structure. But it's the heart that brings those bones to life and gives it character and personality and the ability to move in a certain direction. That you can have all the bones you need, you know, in a cemetery, but without that heart and that blood flow and that lifeline and liveliness in the community, you're just going to be, you know, just kind of you have the basics, but you don't learn how to thrive. You can exist but not thrive. And the arts are what causes a society to thrive and to really find its niche and to find its place in the world. And every different people group or society or state has its own little character to it. And I believe in the character that is forming in Haverhill. It's been growing exponentially since I got involved. I've only been living there for 11 years. But when I first arrived, there was a little bit of a deadness, a lull, a lack of personality and enthusiasm in the arts. And it seemed like when you get people involved that really are passionate about not just the music, but theater, the arts, and sculpting and even knitting and all these different art forms, you really bring out the life. You bring the life to a more visible formality, and it's just enriching. It's that enrichment that you need in life to keep you focused, and I just strongly believe that, just as the quote says, it's a body without a beating heart.
It's a body without a beating heart. And it's interesting that you're mentioning this whole thing about when you first came to Haverhill, how it felt dead. It's certainly a beautiful infrastructure, but the life is really emerging because of people like you who are reaching into the community and giving people voice, giving people soul, giving people heart, as you're saying.
Yes, and it's not that it didn't exist already. It was just hidden more.
It just pulls it out.
Absolutely. Linking arms with other local entities that are doing the arts in the community, linking arms with our young society. I believe that the way you capture the youth is through the things that interest them, and that they're all about art and expression. And when you empower our youth, you're giving way to the future as well as building on the present. Yep. And you're telling them that who they are as individuals is important and vital to the growth and stability of our community. In our school systems, they're doing the best that they can, but it becomes more rote and robotic, and everybody's taking the same test and training the same way, and it's very difficult to really hone in on that individual treasures in each soul that's represented in all the schools. And they're busy competing for government money in order to keep that school going, but so they can't focus on the individual like some of the artist industries in our community can. And it's our job to make sure that they know that they are welcome with their rap, with their beatboxing, with their dance, with their art forms, to do it in such a way that builds the community and forms an alliance with the community, and not degrade and deface like some of the graffiti artists that you see about trying to express themselves, but it's in a negative way. And so part of my job is to help them find the positive ways of expressing themselves, and not to belittle their talent or say it doesn't matter, but to channel their talent back into the community in a positive venue.
Yeah, and one of the things that I notice with the type of music and the types of things that you're doing working with youth is how it really does break down barriers. We're going to be looking at some pictures a little bit later, and you see kids who maybe normally wouldn't be hanging together, or would be a little bit shy, or this kid's a little bit too cool for me. And when they're working together and singing together or dancing together, those barriers start to wind down.
Absolutely.
And it does bring in the audience as well. It is, as you're saying, it's empowering. It's bringing out a very positive force in us. It's bringing out the heart that a friend of mine, Latriah Masters, was talking about with music. Absolutely. So what was it about your history and about you that made you take this path to use music as a way to reach into the community, to find the heart of the community, and to really overcome some tremendous obstacles?
Absolutely.
In order to get there, in order to do what you're doing, in order to get this nonprofit started, because you believe in it so much. Where does that come from?
Music saved my life. It literally did. I grew up impoverished. a family of 6 kids. My mom raised us as a mother of 6 individuals. I was the 5th one. I was the baby. And we grew up in church where music was a big part of our life. And it seemed to be the only safe way that I could express how I felt and receive hope for tomorrow through music. Even though I had a house full of siblings, we all felt our own, level of pain that we didn't really, we weren't able to communicate it clearly, what we were feeling, and find solace with one another. So I found solace in my journals where I wrote poetry and I wrote songs, and I was able to express how I felt about my life and wanting to triumph over these difficulties on paper. And it started in my bedroom, just trying to figure out what's going on in the world and how do I fit in, and is there hope for me? Am I doomed to just live this life of poverty and stay in this place of darkness, or is there more to life? And it came from pulling out what was inside of me first before I could help anybody else. And I started writing poetry in 4th grade. I found that it was such a beautiful way of expressing, and I wanted to reach people with the power of words like I felt touched. One of the first poems that I ever read was, and I didn't know there was more to it. It was just a small segment in a book that I read, and it says, "Who can see the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by." And it gripped my soul in such a way that I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to reach out and grab somebody by words. And so it started with poetry, and then I began to write songs. I knew at the age of 6 that I wanted to be a singer, but I was so fearful as a child. And singing somehow brought me out of fear a little bit at a time. It took ages, it seems like. I would try out for talent shows, and they would call my name, and I wouldn't even come out. Yeah. I wouldn't even come out. But I knew it was inside of me, and somehow I had to keep breaking through that. And thankfully, through going to church and singing with the choirs or singing in the chorus at school, it helped me to continue to grow that talent. I couldn't stand alone and do it yet, but I could stand in the midst of a group and find freedom and find courage. And so I knew that it was a big part of my life to continue along that path. And so as I got older, actually, I became unexpectedly a mother at the age of 18, and it wasn't quite the desired path that I took. However, I always knew I wanted to have a large family. But I started way earlier. I met my husband at 16. We got married 3 weeks after I graduated high school. And our first year, we had our first child. And it kind of, in 7 years, we ended up with 5 kids after that. And singing as a full-time mom and doing the dishes and singing songs and writing poetry and writing music as I went through the mundane of changing diapers and burping babies. And somehow I felt trapped kind of in a bubble of constant dishwashing and laundry. But once again, it was music and poetry that gave me that life to say, this is one day going to pass, and you'll be able to find that livelihood in yourself again, and instead of just being mom of a mother of 5, that's how people related to me. Oh, is that that person with the 5 kids? They didn't even know my name. Right. So part of finding who I was continuing to delve into that passion of music and the arts in the privacy of my own home. Yeah. And then one day, lo and behold, all my kids grew up. They actually do. And I was saying, okay, what do I want to do again? My kids are all in school. Well, I promised myself that no matter what, even though I had a house full of children that always needed me, a husband that always needed me, a house that always needed cleaning, that I would still invest in my personal dream. And that was to go to college for music. So with my kids all finally in school, in a house that still needed tending, I decided to enroll in Northern Essex in Haverhill to pursue my music degree. Not because I thought I was going to do anything, but maybe learn how to write music and compose it more so that people could play it if I just gave it away. I felt like my time had passed to be a performer and a singer, but I thought if I can just write music and hand it over to someone else, then at least I'm still giving of that gift. So I went to college, and part of the requirement was to perform out. And I met some other people that were just as passionate about music. And so I started performing out at the Chit Chat, and I met my best friend, college friend, Liz Bills, and we started performing together. And all of a sudden I realized I really like this. And so she left after a couple of years and went to Berkeley, and I ended up graduating at the top of my class in the music program.
Congratulations.
Got the Excellence Award, and made the Dean's List every year, even while I actually had a job working full-time. I went to school full-time, and I was a full-time mom and wife, and I did all of that and kept my passion, because I wanted to show my children, even though you can take a detour in life and things happen, and you can come from poverty and you can come from life of difficulty, you never have to let go of your dream. So after I graduated, I felt absolutely like steam was rising from my skull from all the hard work, and I just wanted to sleep. And what happened was I ended up dreaming these ideals that I was like, where is this all coming from? And I began to write it down in scattered thoughts and scattered little notes. And I realized this is an organization that is being pulled out of me in my time of rest after graduating. And I was like, I gotta figure out what to do with this. And I realized when I asked myself these 3 questions after graduating, because I realized I graduated and I felt comfortable with, I was working in a music studio at that time, and I was teaching little children and teenagers and even some older adults how to sing and play piano. A lot of my colleagues were going to work at pizza parlors or not working at all and hitting dead-end jobs, and that just really bothered me, that they would graduate in the same manner that I did, but I was going on to utilize that gift and they were not. So I started asking myself, what can I do for my kids with this new understanding and knowledge? What can I do for my colleagues, and what can I do for my community? And that's what really launched the nonprofit, is fulfilling those 3 questions: my kids, my colleagues, my community. And those thoughts that were pulling together as I rested became a full business plan that I started getting mentoring from the Chamber of Commerce and their SCORE program. And they said, wow, we've never met anybody that had everything so worked out already. I had the name, I had the mission statement, I had all the services I wanted to offer. And they were like, you okay? Well, let's see what we can do. So, you need to make this more pleasant, and I had this hideous logo at first, and it was a heart, and it had like those beeping lines when you see your heart on a monitor in the hospital. And they said, well, we think most people will feel like they're on their deathbed if they see that. So I had to create something more inviting. I don't know if you guys had the image of my
I think we're going to
logo.
see it a little bit later.
But having to fine tune the way it was presented was a really big part of how to launch the nonprofit and make it appealing, and how do you invite people into this vision. And part of that was the process. And so I quit my job full-time working in a music studio, because I realized that the services that I was providing, though I loved it, it was not meeting the need for everyone. There were a lot of people who did not have the financial means to afford what I was being able to do and what other people were doing. You know, it was always, well, if you can afford the $100 a month or more, then you can learn piano, or you can learn guitar, or you can learn how to sing. But what about those who couldn't? I grew up in that. I was one of the ones who could not
Afford your own services.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wanted my kids to learn more as well. And I could not afford to have them come to the studio where I worked. I had to find other means so that they could learn things I couldn't teach them. Yeah. And that really bothered me as well. You know, even my own family couldn't afford the things that I was being able to offer other families. So I said, you know what? It is the arts that pulled me through. It was the arts that gave me direction. It was the arts that helped me to express myself and integrate into the community more fully. And I see how it's important for my kids. So that they got involved in another program in the community and started learning flute and all those things. And they are straight A students. And I saw the connection between the arts and giving focus to youth, and they're on their path of education, and they have been academically strong. They have given back to the community. They're also mentoring other youth in the same ways that they have learned. And I said, as it is with my family, I want it to be in the community. So really understanding how to take that nugget of truth that I learned in my own private setting, how to expand that is really what the organization was about. Because as an individual, I can teach people from my home studio, and I can, go and volunteer here and there. But I knew it had to be a bigger vision. Yeah. There was more to give, and it couldn't just be built on my own shoulders and my talent. I had to pull other people in order to expand the vision across the board, because the need was too great to just be on my shoulders or just a handful of people in the community. I needed to be able to lock arms with other people that had giftings and talent to give, as well as the passion and ability to pour out their time and effort back into the community, whether they were paid or not. And that's really kind of where I've been, whether I could afford it through finances or not. Whatever I had to give, I gave it until I could do better. So in that process of saying at the Chamber of Commerce and through SCORE, how can I serve the community? Where can I get integrated into? They shared with me some of the other projects already happening in the community that I might, be able to connect with. And I tried doing those things, and it didn't quite fit. It wasn't quite the right fit. And so I said, you know what? I might not have $1 million, but I do have the heart and talent and a vision. I'm gonna go see the mayor. So I did. I scheduled an appointment for the mayor's open office hours, and I was supposed to meet with him and share the vision, and he couldn't make it, so I talked to his chief of staff. And so the chief of staff passed on that information to the mayor, and the very next day I heard from the mayor, and he was like, hey, I heard about what you're trying to do in the community. I want you to take a look at this building.
Right, that's where you and I.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I passed up this building on a regular basis and had no idea that the gym that it was. And I looked at this building, and it already had a stage. It had a huge auditorium, 5,000 square feet from the first floor and the middle floor. And it was perfect, and it was in the right neighborhood with the people who needed the most. And ever since then, I have been, it just took off. It has not all been easy. There has definitely been some red tape and some roadblocks, but I am determined, and I know that the vision will come to pass to open it as a nonprofit center. So I am in a legal binding contract to the building. I don't know if, I hope I sent you an image of that, but in case not, it's 222 Washington Street. It's the old Polish National Entertainment Home. and it was used many years ago for live entertainment, and it had a restaurant in the basement, and it was even the mayor and his wife used to go dance in there. And it's a beautiful piece of property that absolutely should be integrated into a nonprofit arts center. And there's actually possibly an image with a grand piano that was donated to me. It was sitting in there and waiting to be played. But that's really how it all got started. How can I help my kids, and show them that you can use your artistic talents in life and find fulfillment? How can I help my colleagues? You don't have to go to a dead-end job after graduating. You can actually utilize it, get plugged back into the community and find fulfillment in it. How can I help my community? The educational system cannot handle it all. They're lacking funds, they're lacking space. And saying, hey, I have a place where you can fulfill those artistic needs that you might not be getting met in the educational system. But the biggest lesson that I've learned is that with how to be the organization without the space. The space is a great vision, but it's not open yet.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to function without a building?
Should we look at some of the things you're doing without a building?
Absolutely.
What do you think? Can we take a look at some of those photos, and then we could talk about what's actually going on, how your vision is actually coming to fruition, even without the building.
Even without the building.
Even without the building, but it's got the heart. So why don't we take a look at some of these?
So this was an event called NeighborFest, and it happened in the worst neighborhood in Haverhill. It's called Mount Washington. And so what happened was I was taking part, one of the partners of the Mount Washington Alliance. We won a grant to help redeem the worst neighborhood, and this was part of the celebration. They'd put on a NeighborFest to have live music, give out free food, and also have several booths where they had information being handed out to those families in Mount Washington. And my part, having the nonprofit arts organization, I brought in a DJ, I brought in a live band, which was this group right here, and her name is Amanda McCarthy. And she's also one of my college colleagues that came out of Northern Essex, and we stayed connected. Great. And I said, "Hey, come join in." And so they played live throughout the entire, not the entire festivity, but they played live for probably an hour. We had DJ services, and then we also did live dance mob in the streets with the community. And it took a community who's used to hearing bad news and having sirens blaring up and down the streets to having laughter in the community for the first time, just out in the open, and really, it was really enjoyable. So,
bringing a community together.
That's right.
I'm noticing in the back there, is that your logo?
That is my logo.
That's a happy logo. It is.
Yes, I sure hope it is.
Let's go to the next one, can we? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is one of my newer projects, and
I like that little kid on the right.
Yeah, it's very diverse. We've got represented here 3 different culture ethnicities, which is really important for me to have that unifying element in our community. And this is Haverhill City Voice. It's a small group at the moment. We just launched it in February, and it's supposed to be, a citywide performance group representing the different schools, the homeschool families, and even local churches or groups meeting in the community to come together for unifying purposes. I felt like all of our kids, they're used to competing academically, they're used to competing athletically, but very rarely do you come together for a positive reason. So forming a citywide performance group, Haverhill City Voice, was my attempt to unify our youth, to bring our families together for a stronger community. I really believe in unity through creativity, and it just evens out the playing field. So
Absolutely.
Here we have represented Caucasians, we have African Americans, and we have Spanish right here. Just in that small nugget, it's a great representation. We're actually having our very first performance on May 13th. Kids Fest, and so we will have.
And I'm going to that. I have that on my calendar.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
we're very happy to invite anybody in. It's not just for Haverhill. It is an annual event that pulls in people from all over. So feel free to come out.
Right in Haverhill, right on, what's that main road?
Yes, Washington Street, downtown, where the post office is, and we have our town square. And it's going to be, the whole street will be closed off because it's a full day of festivities, live music, food vendors, and other activities for like bouncy house and face painting for kids. But that'll be our first community performance since launching, and we're looking for ages 7 to 18. And it's been a really great experience. Obviously we want a greater representation, but it's amazing what you can do with just a handful of people with a great heart. And
again, say the date, May 13th, the time?
I believe they're still squaring it away on the Kids Fest committee, but I do believe it'll be around between 2 to 3 o'clock that we'll be up on that stage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Next one.
So these are my 2 private students. I teach private instruction as well from my private studio, and these are siblings. They come in together. Sometimes I teach individuals, and sometimes I teach them together. And this is one of the things that I feel is really important, is memorization. We play this game where they compete against one another to see. I have like a whole giant stack of memory cards that have different information about music and music notes, time signatures, how to read the grand staff, and we go through all of them every session, and whoever gets it the fastest gets that card. And then they compare how many each one got at the end. And that's just a small segment of our lesson. But memorization is key to learning music, because... And
they probably don't even know that they're learning how to memorize, so it's fun.
It is very fun for them, and it's so funny because they're always competing. Sometimes I do it individually. They were like, "No, we want to, we want to see, we want to see who can get the most."
Yeah.
And they're so excited in our classes, and it makes me smile. It makes me laugh that they have such an excitement, and you can't see their mom off to the side, but I have, furniture in there for the parents to relax while their children are learning their lessons. And so that's just a small part of what we do.
Yeah. And who's that in the middle there?
So I wanted to make sure you guys saw. These aren't pictures pulled off the internet. This is my real studio. These are my real kids, and that's me teaching them. And this is at the end of our lesson when they've done a great job, and they get stickers.
I remember at the end of my music lessons, it was I couldn't wait to get out of there quick enough, and I think that the instructor probably felt the same way.
Oh man, it's hard to get them out the door. They like it there.
What else do we have? There she is again.
That's right. This is Nicole, and she is learning a little bit faster than her brothers. They're not twins. She's a little bit older, so I do teach them according to their learning curve. And right now we're learning Old Uncle Bill and Love Somebody, and we're learning harmonics, notes played together as well as separate. And she's reading that sheet music really well. She can memorize it and even play it without even looking at the book.
Oh, good for her.
And in the very back you can see my hen and sham, which are finger exercises that we do.
And I think we're going to be seeing a little of that with a video coming up. So this is sort of the same.
So this is, I wanted to make sure we had a picture that show that I have enough instruments to teach both at the same time. She's wearing headphones so that when I'm working specifically with her brother, Terry, she can go and practice on the other piano and keep the lesson going. And then I swap and work with the other one and let the other one practice so that none of the time is wasted.
Yeah.
And they are always, being active and learning, and he's working on his songs, and then she can work on her songs and learn at their own pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, what else do we have here?
So this is an image from my summer camp. I ran 4 summer camps. However, this is the first one as my nonprofit. And part of that, we had a full week of teaching 2 group performances as well as individual performances. Each kid can have their moment to shine on stage and sing their own song, but part of it was also getting them all to collaborate to sing as well as learn dance choreography. And a lot of kids will come in and not have any experience with that at all, and some will have more experience. And it's both teenagers and youth of all ages. And the ones that are on stage were actually had solo parts, and they were leading the song more fully with the microphones. And then the ones on the lower level, they were acting it out with choreography. And this was our end of the week performance. And the seats on the right side were where they were sitting, so it's not that we didn't have an audience. That's just where they go to sit during the rest of the performance. And it turned out really good. And we were actually performing Fight Song by Rachel Platten, was what that song was.
Yeah, they look like they're having a good time.
Yeah.
What else
really
do we
good.
have? What's coming next? I love it.
So midweek, like every day, we have a specific spirit day, or let me clarify, where we do something festive. And this week was our photo op day, where we had fun with props and pictures and stuff like that. So I brought in a ton of, big sunglasses and hats and colorful scarves and stuff like that. And we just took pictures to have, to show how we were having fun as a group. And right there in the middle is Liz Bills with the white hat. I bring in local artists to give inspirational talks to children about conquering their fears, dealing with stage fright. And Liz Bills in particular, we were besties in college. We performed out, and then she went to Berkeley, and then also she's been a contestant on American Idol, the Top 30, and has recently performed as an opener for Bon Jovi. And we're actually in a band together performing this Saturday, Liz Bills and Friends. And she came out, actually this was probably her 3rd time coming to my summer camp as a guest performing artist, to show kids that no matter if you have issues with stage fright or have ever been in front of judges where they say, no, we want you, no, or yes, we want you, or no, we don't. She talks about those experiences of being in front of that type of setting, and how do you deal with rejection, how do you deal with, being afraid in front of famous people, or being in front of large television cameras. So I felt that was really important, because
for all of us.
And
right.
And today's society, everybody wants to make it big. Everybody wants to get famous on YouTube. So it kind of tackles all those things that kids will usually experience trying to be on that road to fame. Some will make it, and some will just play around with it. But there's an emotional element that comes with it, and you kind of have to know how to deal with it. So she's my guest. She was my guest to help talk about those specific issues.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We have, I think, one other, right?
Yeah, we have a couple more. So once again, these are our teen girls, and we took pictures with the teens and some with the younger kids, but this is them having a blast. And I thought it was really cool to see that these are today's teenagers. They sometimes have a hard time expressing themselves in front of a camera if they feel like, oh no, I look too silly, or other times they're super selfie takers and they want to get silly faces all around. But and this is our young men who were a part of the camp. Not all of them were in this scene, but they were having a blast. We did an entire presentation with lightsabers and had a lightsaber battle, and we had a drum segment, and this is just them being silly and having themselves a great time, showing off their Jedi skills. And we have art segments throughout our summer camp, and this is the design that one of the students came up with as part of the end of the week presentation, and they picked the name Radio Royalty because it was a week where we were doing Pop Radio Live and showcasing today's pop music, positive pop, I should say. So that was really cool. This was one of our individual performances, and I tell you what, he was one of the camp favorites. He was this little boy with a big voice, and he sang Let It Go from the hit movie Frozen, and he just wailed on that microphone, and everybody loved it.
I wish we had a video of that one too, but we have a couple of
and that's all of us together.
There you are.
Like I said, it was my first summer camp as a nonprofit, and it turned out really well. 18 kids all together. I don't know if everybody made it in that photo. I think maybe one person was missing that day. But that's all of us together having a blast, and me in the middle, because I wanted, everybody to see that I love this. This work makes me happy. It's, what I enjoy doing, and I want to continue doing that and bringing everybody together across ethnicities, across financial differences. And one more thing I want to point out is that half those kids were scholarship kids that we provided so that people who could not afford it could go. And it was extremely affordable, but there's always some people who still need a little bit of help. It was only $100 for the whole week.
Oh, that's great.
I want to promote that because there's many of the camps the kids go to are like $400 to $600 to $800 for the week. And that was, just $100 for the full week with a performance and live music and art. And also games. We did minute to win it stuff in order to get the kids integrated and feel like they were comrades by the end of the week. And it was a lot of fun.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
it does.
you
You had one young woman who you were going to be bringing today who couldn't because everybody wants a piece of her. And we had a couple of videos that we were planning to show ahead of this, but in the interest of time and also in terms of the flow of what you're showing here, I'm wondering if you folks could show us the video of Veronica Lewis, because this lady, talking about wailing it out, I call her a lady because she's got the maturity and the voice of a grown woman.
Yes, and I'll just keep a quick nugget. This is Veronica Lewis. She's I'm her performance coach. We work on vocals, and we work on piano skills, and we work on presenting and how to tell the story in music. And she is actually 2 years in a row now the representative for the Granite State Blues Society, and they sent her to Memphis to one of the biggest international blues challenges in our state. Not our state, but in our country. It's the biggest gathering of blues musicians where they showcase and compete for record deals, record contracts, publicity, and networking. And she had the honor of performing on the infamous Beale Street right there in Memphis. And she's gotten mentored by some of the big names. I can't remember them all, but yeah, it's a great time to see what she's been working on. This is one of our newest songs that we've been preparing for with Veronica Lewis.
Yeah, so let's hear it.
Thank you. My next song is my own rendition of Sweet Child of Mine by Axl Rose. And I'd like to thank and dedicate this song to David Riley for putting on the Youth Showcase today.
Woo! All right, David.
Sky.
got to give that lady an applause too.
Absolutely.
But I also want to give her teacher and coach an applause. So for those who don't know, but you're probably surmising, Latriah Masters is a really accomplished singer. And I went onto your website, I hope you don't mind, and I just clipped off one of a short song that you were singing. I think it was at the
Mayor's
Christmas party.
Yeah.
So you know, all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, how about if we see that, and then we can get some more information about how to get in contact with you, and let you be on your way for today, because I know you've got a busy day.
Well, I tell you what, I've got 2 performances this weekend. If you happen to be in Haverhill, Battlegrounds Cafe, I'm doing spotlight poetry as well as singing at 7 o'clock. And then I'll be performing at tomorrow's O Positive Festival on Saturday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is beautiful. That's Barbra Streisand, right?
That was Barbra Streisand.
A version of Barbra Streisand. So is there anything else that we want to tell the people who are watching the show about your organization that's coming up? Any other events? We know you're going to be at the Battleground Cafe. You're going to be at the event. What's the
O Positive Festival tomorrow.
Yep, the Positive.
I'm part of a band called Liz, Bills and Friends.
Yep.
But I'm also staying tuned to. I'm working on a concert of my own, some of my originals as well as covers. Well, it'll be multi-language. I'll be singing French and Spanish and some English tunes, and I'm working on it. It's called Tour de Arts. So stay tuned for that. I'm also launching Haverhill's first mommy and baby music program called Munchkin Melodies, and you'll get to bring the baby in and enjoy live music, and you know, the babies can have shakers and little drums to play with. That's exciting. Hopefully they'll be launched in June. And also another year of summer camp is coming. We're looking for perhaps a college intern who would like to join up and utilize their giftings and talent in either the art or music department or even acting. I want to get connected to that. We're going to be doing that probably the first week or 2 of August before school starts. We're also looking for continued donations for our art center. 222 Washington is not open yet because we need a sprinkler system. So if anybody has some funds that they want to put towards that, or some instruments that they want to donate, so that when our doors are open, we have some materials ready to go. We've already had a grand piano donated. That was phenomenal. We've got some other things underway, but we always need help because this is a grand vision.
Yeah.
We're looking for teachers, volunteers, and materials alike, as well as some funding so we can continue to supply scholarships to the young people in our community and make sure that we are providing equal access to people of all different ethnicities, financial means, and more. So
if anybody wants to get in contact with you, your number is
978-332-4934. Once again, that's 978-332-4934.
Excellent. You're a pro at this already. So I think it's time that we wrap up. Thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in learning more about our organization, Community InRoads, please contact me at 978-604-8803. We continue to welcome new volunteers to our Community InRoads family to help organizations like Latriah. But before we go, we'd like to leave you with one of Latriah Master's videos, Peace Pollination. And thank you for watching.
We all go through pain. The world is suffering. We all have tears. The oceans are filled. People die, every culture you hear crying, souls are tortured by the lies of angry voices and the reaping of our choices. Whoa, whoa, we all make mistakes. We all carry shame. We all are to blame. We all need to change.